Towards realization of the grand vision of better infrastructure, the government is soon commissioning operations of the Port of Lamu in June 2021. 3 of the 32 berths of the port have been completed, and it's expected that Lamu Port alone will handle up to 24 million tons of cargo annually when fully completed. Lamu Port construction is part of the $25 billion Lamu Port, South Sudan and Ethiopia Transport Corridor project, also known as LAPSSET. The transformative Lamu Port project was officially launched by the Government of Kenya in March 2012, and its construction continues in earnest. Commissioning of the Lamu Port will play a significant role in the next phase of Kenya's socio-economic growth. The soon-to-be operationalized port will continue to modernization of Kenya's infrastructure and boost communication and transportation, which are some of the key pillars of Kenya's dominant position in Eastern Africa. The Government of Kenya has committed to expanding Kenyan road and rail network to better open the country for trade and also to cement Kenya's position as a regional transportation and communication hub. As the Government of Kenya strive to bring the country into a new realm of increased economic growth and raise the living standards for the population, many infrastructural projects have been commissioned. President Uhuru Kenyatta has remained instrumental in championing for a new chapter of Kenya's infrastructural development, and that is why the mega LAPSSET project is gradually becoming a reality despite the challenges the project has faced. LAPSSET is one of Kenya's flagship long-term infrastructural development programs under the country's Vision 2030 and the infrastructural development pillar under the Big Four agenda. Through its multiple infrastructural components, including the 32-berth Lamu Port, regional highways, rails, oil pipelines, and refineries, as well as resort cities along the corridor, the mega project is projected to become a major contributor that will take Kenya's annual gross domestic product, that is GDP, growth to more than 10%. The LAPSSET project will not only become one of Kenya's revolutionary infrastructural development projects in the country's recent history, but also contribute to realization of African Union's vision of integrating the continent for regional trading by 2063. The government of President Uhuru Kenyatta has remained committed into bringing the LAPSSET grand vision into a reality. The project bears heavily on the president's ambition to modernize Kenya's infrastructure to cement Kenya's position in Africa and the Horn of African regions. To hasten the realization of the benefits of the Lamu Port initiative, the government has been upgrading and constructing roads that connect the port as the regional hinterland encompassing Ethiopia, South Sudan, and Uganda. The port will also connect Kenya and the regional hinterland to 300 ports. The initiative of the port is also expected to create domestically, including jobs in fisheries, logistics, trade, agriculture, commerce. Hitch with our earlier broadcast, but we're back and we will continue with our conversation. And before we had that technical hitch, we were looking at the amount of money that is being spent during the campaign periods, and apparently Western and Nyanza regions happen to be the areas that spend the most, and that is according to some statistics and analysis from the previous election and what has been going on. So we've been trying to find out what really is going on there. So I will have Samuel Tawish to just conclude his thought, and then we can move on to something else. Samuel Tawish, if you can hear me, I think you were talking before that hitch.
Thank you so much, Miriam, and thank you, of course, for the submissions that you're making on this particular topic. Miriam, indeed, what I was trying to talk to Kenyans is for them to understand that when we get to seasons like this one, seasons when we are having these campaigns and when politicians are asking for your vote, they will come with all manner of persuasive kind of language and promises to try and woo you to their side. But by the end of the day, we need to look critically onto the credentials and, of course, the character and the competence of these individuals before we can be able to trust them with our vote. Because when you elect someone to get into office, it's more of like really you are securing or destroying your future depending on how you are going to make it. These politicians come with lofty promises, Miriam, more often that they will do ABCD. They will come with a euphoric kind of campaign platforms like what we are seeing today. They will want even to identify with you. These are times when you will see people going to Meru and they will be chewing Mira just for the sake of the cameras and for people of Meru to see that they identify with them. These are times that you see politicians really going about the streets and buying roast maize and boiled maize just to identify with the ordinary Mwananchi. They go into those small shanties really to or kiosks, if you like, really to have a meal with the law in society, because they want to identify and make you feel like they are part and parcel of you. But by the end of the day, once you vote in these guys, they fizzle out. You cannot quite see them until elections come again. That's when you see them come back. What am I trying to say in essence, Miriam? That let money, let propaganda, let shenaniganism not be what is going to shape these campaigns, and even as we head into 2022 general election, that we need to see individuals of competence, people whom we can trust, people with the credentials that are not questionable. Those are the people we want to trust them with our vote, because again, through them we'll be very sure. And it will be very sure that our future has been secured and the future of the generations to come. Miriam, I submit.
All right, and there's something I think we were looking at.
Miriam, maybe if I could just give a rejoinder in that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. And of course, like I said, this is a very, very hot topic from where I come from. Of course, I come from Busia County, which is amongst the western region of the country. And in our place, we call it the listening allowance, in that even before you can be able to address...
It's called the listening allowance.
Yes.
Because Tawish had called it facilitation fee, mobilization fee, and incentive. But where you come from, it's listening allowance.
Yes, because for a politician, for you to even talk to those people, for people to listen to you, you have first of all to give them something so that they can actually put aside whatever errands they are running to come and listen to you. So to me, I think this comes from a historical perspective, because you realize that the people of Western Kenya and more so from Nyanza region have been in the opposition for over 40 years. And these anywhere in the world will tell you that these are people who are not motivated. These are people who have been for so long hit by voter apathy. You know how difficult it was during the Nyayo era, even for young men to get IDs in those particular regions. So you realize that unlike other regions where the government actually banks on their votes to actually be able to run the day-to-day maybe agenda of the government, these region, Western and Nyanza, were actually left out in the cold. And therefore, it becomes an uphill task that whoever wants to go and campaign into these regions, apart from convincing these people why they should vote, they should also actually go ahead and offer them something to entice them to go and vote. So that actually promoted the culture of giving out handouts. And also, even for the government of the day, you realize that Moi knew that Western Kenya and Nyanza was not his political stronghold. And therefore, the only way he could get entry into these particular regions was through bribery and pouring money. You saw the other day when Jubilee was locking horns with UDA in Kiambaa. A friend of mine told me that actually money circulation in Kiambaa was so much in that people, if you could go out in a day, you were so sure of coming home with at least 2,000 or 3,000 in your pocket. So that is what happens in these regions where maybe the government or maybe a particular party feels that it should actually be able to woo them. But however, it feels that the people are not into its fold. So I believe that is what perpetuated this culture of handouts in Western Kenya and the wider Nyanza region. Also, Sharon mentioned something about John Paul, who is an MP in Meru, who won the seat without even spending much. You realize that unlike Rift Valley or maybe parts of central Kenya, our people are yet to start looking at leaders in terms of their capabilities and competence. You know, in Rift Valley, you can get someone as young as even Cherargei, who had only finished campus and was able to win a senatorial seat. That tells you that this is someone who do not have, who cannot marshal enough resources to even beat his competitor, who was a former MP, Henry Kosgei. So that tells you that people in those particular areas actually look at substance and capability of the young people, or maybe even leaders as a whole. But where we come from, I think those so many years being in opposition and also being sidelined from government is what perhaps perpetuated such kind of scenarios. And also you have to factor in that these regions, having been in the opposition for quite long, there is the issue of poverty in those villages, where now people see money as the only solution to their problem. Someone will tell you, instead of you telling me to vote for you so that you can do me something in terms of development, why can't you give me that money so that I eat, so that even if you don't perform, I'll say perhaps I ate your money, and that's how we do business. So I think that is also a notion, Miriam.
Okay, thank you so much. Sharon, you had also something you wanted to say?
Thank you. Thank you very much. And of course, to all the submissions that have been made, mine is just to, give an emphasis to us, because us as voters, it's a notion and it's a culture that we've actually built over years. And, it's actually quite unfortunate, because at the end of the day, we are the ones to lose, big way. Just to appeal to my fellow voters that choices have consequences, and they say a thorn that you pick, with your own accord does not hurt. So let's be very careful, even as we make choices. Even at this period of political shopping, where every leader every leader is trying to appease us with incentives, and if I can call it like Daniel has called them, the listening allowance. There's more there's more to tomorrow, and not just the money that you receive at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Now let's look at something else very quickly. I'll not even get too much into the details of it, but we know that Governor Anne Waiguru officially went and joined the UDA party, leaving Jubilee. But according to our story here, on page 7, Jubilee downplays Waiguru defection. There's not been so much hullabaloo around it, especially from the Jubilee camp. Do you think her absence will be felt and missed, or in this case it's good riddance? Tawish.
Sorry, Miriam, I didn't quite get that question well. If you could just repeat, sorry.
I'm just saying, after Anne Waiguru left Jubilee Party to officially join UDA, but on paper she's still in Jubilee, unless, I don't know, they resign or something. And there's not been too much to do when it comes to Jubilee and how they responded to this matter. And so Jubilee has, what this story now is terming, downplayed Waiguru's defection. So I was just thinking, do you think she'll be missed and her absence will be felt, or in this case, it is good riddance?
Well, Miriam, there comes a time when reality really stings. And for Anne Waiguru, I think, one, she was a formidable player when it came to the Jubilee political party affairs. And her move to UDA is obviously going to create some gap, if you like. And but that does not mean that her gap will not be filled, because again, you understand, Miriam, if you have a football team and their players, if one player gets injured or they move to another team, then you'll have to get a replacement. Sometimes a replacement equal to the player who has exited, or even one who is better than the one who has exited. And I do not think maybe Jubilee as a party is in deficit of politicians or players who can replace, who can play the part that Waiguru was playing in the Jubilee party. In fact, those in the Jubilee camp say it's good riddance that she has left the party, because she was more of a liability or baggage, if you like. And maybe because if you cannot provide leadership, if you cannot be a leader, if you're a person who wants to be to follow your followers instead of the followers or supporters following your leadership, then it speaks more about your quality of leadership, Miriam. And I think the move by Anne Waiguru, much as she feels it is the easiest and convenient way for her to get re-elected, by virtue of the fact, according to her, that the perception on the ground that UDA is the popular party, that Deputy President William Ruto is a popular presidential candidate. But by the end of the day, when you are a leader, you need to come out boldly and courageously and make a move, even if it is not a popular move, as long as you have to show direction, you have to provide leadership for your people. But as for Anne Waiguru, she has succumbed to the pressure of her followers and supporters to a point that when you're listening to her, it is not because she feels Deputy President William Ruto has done so much for the people of Kirinyaga, Central Kenya, or the Republic of Kenya. It is not that Deputy President William Ruto is more of he's making promises that she's sure is going to fulfill, but simply because her supporters and followers are actually singing the UDA and the hustler narrative in Kirinyaga, and that if she wants to get re-elected, did you listen to her? That as a politician, if you want to remain relevant, you have to listen to the voice of your supporters. That if you want to remain relevant, then you must listen to them and the kind of decision they are making. So essentially, when you look into Anne Waiguru, when you listen unto her, when you analyze her speech, you get to understand that her move to UDA is not informed by the fact that maybe William Ruto is propagating ideals that are good for the people of Kirinyaga or for the people of Central Kenya, but simply because she feels this is a convenient move, a move that will make her will increase our chances of being re-elected. But I can tell you for sure that Jubilee hasn't quite lost, because there are so many other women, the likes of Martha Karua, who may come in, and they felt maybe because Anne Waiguru was in there, they could not see eye to eye, politically speaking. That's why we could not have other players more formidable than even Anne Waiguru really coming into Jubilee. So it opens up for other leaders who are able really to come in and fill the gap. And we are likely going to see the kind of realignments when it comes to Central Kenyan politics, more so the women who felt sidelined because of the likes of Anne Waiguru, who have now been, I would say, hired to the UDA team.
All right. And
or have they been listed? I'm not very sure.
Yes, and indeed Kenyans have had so much to say about this particular issue, and I think yesterday it was trending, and I think for those who are not happy that she left, I started bringing up her corruption cases in the past and all that, and the Jubilee supporters reminded the ODM supporters and Kieleweke, part of the government supporters, that you guys cleaned her. You remember when she was taken to Senate and they voted unanimously to they did not find a fault and whatever charges that had been brought against her. So they said you cleaned her up. So after you've done the cleaning and the cleansing, now we'll take her back. Daniel Wasonga, did you see that?
Yes, thank you so much, Miriam Ogutu. And of course, it is indeed an interesting development of affairs, seeing Governor Anne Waiguru, who was perceived to be perhaps one of the leading team members of the Kieleweke team in Central Kenya, jump ship over to William Ruto. But my attention is drawn to what she said before she moved to the other side of the political divide. She said that she has been listening to her people, and the voices on the ground say that she is better off being in the camp of the deputy president. I believe that is a bit obnoxious, in that a leader should not be a follower, because the reason why you are a leader is because you are. It is upon yourself to actually determine the agenda of the people. The moment you stop leading and actually advancing an agenda which your people can rally behind, then you disqualify yourself from being a leader. You become a mere follower, because you do not guide people accordingly, because you do not seem to have a stand of your own. We do have selfless leaders in this country, people who say that no matter where the wave of the people, no matter where the euphoria goes, I have to stand to my essentials. I have to stand to the ideals that I believe in. And we remember one such individual is Raila Odinga. You remember during the Mau evictions, even though he knew that it's going to cost him dearly during the 2013 presidential elections, Raila Odinga said Mau forest must be conserved. People should be evicted out of the forest. so that we conserve our water chambers and all that. So I think, to me, Martha Karua is not Martha Karua, but Anne Waiguru is flip-flopping. And for a politician, that's a bit tricky, because what happens if the ground was actually saying otherwise, because maybe perhaps we had Ngirishi or Wangui Ngirishi in the other side of the political divide. The moment she moves to UDA, I believe she do not move with the people of Kirinyaga who are supporting Wangui Ngirishi. She's going to meet her Waterloo in the nomination of the UDA. And I trust you, Miriam, if nominations will be held in 2022, I have 90% confidence that the current women rep Wangui Ngirishi is going to floor Anne Mumbi Waiguru. And what we are more likely to see is that Waiguru might again jump ship to go and maybe seek another political allegiance. Another thing is that we saw whatever Nakuru Governor Lee Kinyanjui said, that they wish her well because it is her democratic right to associate with whichever side of the political divide that she wishes for. But he mentioned essentially that people will understand now how the political tune is going to drift in January next year. So things are still a bit too young, and they say a day in politics is a very, very long time. So to me, I think it was a bit premature, and whatever she's doing right now, she's just playing to the tune of politics of survival, Miriam. I submit.
Okay, thank you. Sharon, do you think there's something she was bringing to the table that Jubilee might suffer now that she's left?
Thank you very much, Miriam. And it's quite unfortunate. It's actually not going to be any blow to the Jubilee, and she's going to be replaced even before she knows it. If anything, I would say she was actually a stumbling block to the party. But I think what she really didn't put into consideration was, I think her timing and balance is what really was actually. She didn't really, take time to think about that, because if I look at even in the field, in any game, you realize that timing and balance is actually, very critical. So, they say politics is about interest, so I am also trying to hold my breath to see how this whole fit is going, to turn around. But when she actually said she was actually introspecting and listening to what the ground was saying, my biggest question would be, how is she so sure that this crowd actually came from UDA, so that her decision, to prove to us that her decision was actually informed by what the people on the ground were actually saying. So these whole political shenanigans are actually, it's actually, I tried and call it, I don't know if it's political entertainment, and there's so much. I'm sure by the time we get to 2022, she might have, who knows, she might have actually moved into a different party, because let's just wait and see how this whole thing turns out. But from where I see, unless she's actually trying to seek a different, maybe a running mate of UDA, but if she's trying to look at the gubernatorial seat, there is no euphoria that is going to sweep the mind of Mount Kenya people. Track record, character, and leadership is evidence. When we rule out her track record and character issues and integrity issues, then she's not going to see the day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And now let's start.
Miriam, if you may allow just an additional point on this question of Anne Waiguru. I think for quite some time, Waiguru has come out as a politician who is just but overrated. You cannot quite compare, but only contrast Anne Waiguru and, of course, Martha Karua, a person who, of course, was just a worker at the Ministry of Finance, eventually getting an opportunity to be nominated and appointed as minister in the cabinet of President Uhuru Kenyatta. And because of that fame, and you understand what happened during her time at the Ministry of Devolution, the NYS scandal and others. You remember when Deputy President William Ruto spoke of the catwalking and speaking too much of English, but going to steal people's money or the public coffers. Miriam, I can quite tell you that if you are to put Martha Karua, for example, on this other hand, and Anne Waiguru on this other hand, you will find that actually Martha Karua is a person of integrity, is a person who has her own credentials, is a person whom you cannot quite question when it comes to the matters to do with the corruption. And today, if you are to get someone like Martha Karua to your side, and I believe also she's a person who takes a political stand, regardless whether you're going to be with her or you will not be with her. Remember, she's the only woman who stood against President Moi during those times of the Kanu regime. She's the only woman who said she was not going to fold her party and join Jubilee during the 2017 general election. She even contested for presidency against the terrain and the grain in Mount Kenya, when everybody was saying it is President Uhuru Kenyatta who must be supported by all people in Mount Kenya. And this time around, she's a person who has a stand. And I think those are the kind of leaders we really want, not the people who are just swayed by the wind. When you see where the wind is blowing to us, that is where you go. You need to have your own credentials, and a person who stands by an ideal, regardless of whatever kind of support or where the wind is blowing towards. So I believe that Anne Waiguru is going to face most of the most turbulent times ever in her political life when it comes to the nomination and consequently the general election 2022. Unless she has been promised something else away from retaining her seat in Kirinyaga, maybe there's a discussion behind the scene to have her as a running mate to Deputy President William Ruto. But also don't forget, there have been players, there have been people from that region who have been with Deputy President William Ruto in all times. Talk of Alice Wahome. What will she talk? What will she conclude if you will have Anne Waiguru maybe becoming a running mate to Deputy President William Ruto, when she feels she's all along been humiliated and gone through political persecution because of affiliation to Deputy President William Ruto? How about Rigathi Gachagua? How about Moses Kuria? How about Kimani Ichung'wah? And so many. How about even Ngirishi herself?
So there's no silver platter waiting for her. That's what you're saying.
It's not going to be easy for her.
Very well. Very well, thank you so much. So let's move on to another story. I think a gift that keep on giving, especially to Kenyans online. Sudi faces uncertain future after officials disown academic papers. Nairobi court yesterday heard how Kapseret Member of Parliament Oscar Sudi allegedly forged academic certificates to contest the 2013 general election. Two witnesses testified that the legislator did not seat the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education examination or obtain a diploma in business management. The MP sat pensively in court as John Matseshe from the Kenya Institute of Management, that is KIM, and Nabiki Kashu from the Kenya National Examination Council, NEC, disowned his certificates as forgeries and non-existent in their database. Matseshe, a former head of examination at KIM, took the stand yesterday and testified that Sudi's diploma, purportedly issued by the institution in September 2008, was fake. I can confirm that the certificate registered under the name of Sudi Oscar Kipchumba was not a genuine document from Kenya Institute of Management, and he may not have been a student in our institution and did not sit any examination, he said. According to Matseshe, the serial number on the certificate presented by Sudi belonged to Elkanah Kimutai, while the admission number belonged to Scholastica Achieng Odhiambo. And then also Matseshe testimony came a day after Kashu disowned the MP's KCSE certificates. And also Kenyans had so much to say about this. So you ask Scholastica na ingine ilikuwa nani ile ya juzi. So they're saying because he seems to be borrowing certificates from people from a certain region, so maybe he should just face that region and say TB him about 10 times and he'll be fine. That is one of the comments I read online. But what do you make of this new revelations, and should he be found guilty? What is the future of Oscar Sudi as far as his political life is concerned? Daniel Wesonga.
Yes, thank you, Miriam Ogutu. And of course, it is very baffling that we have a leader in office who is a public servant, a representative of the people by the name Oscar Sudi, having all this trail of forged papers under his name. And I think the most critical question that Kenyans should be asking themselves, how many Oscar Sudis do we have out there? And how come the IEBC cleared Oscar Sudi to run for office despite all these discrepancies in his papers? I saw one of the certificates indicating that he did the diploma in 2005 at Kenya Institute of Management, whereas the KCSE certificate indicates that he sat for the paper, KCSE paper, in 2006. You know, this is mind-boggling, Miriam. You know, for someone of that...
trickle down. Yes, indeed, trickle down. Sasa.
Yes, and you know, you wonder how can someone do a diploma and then proceed later on to do the KCSE certificate? You know, this is a whole mess. It should have been noticed earlier on by the IEBC when he presented perhaps these papers. And this story about Sudi, I remember it came into the limelight just before the 2017 general election. But because of who IEBC are, they could not even stop Oscar Sudi to contest for the MP Kapseret constituency. We've seen people like Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko, people who have no record of perhaps being in any high school, or people who have no any record of even sitting in a university class, vying for governor, whose requirement, you know, Sudi might be lucky because for you to be an MP, you don't need a degree. But for someone like Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko, you see him vying for governor and nothing is said from IEBC, neither is nothing said from the EACC. We've seen people like even Aisha Jumwa claiming that now she wants to run for governor. She has no any record to show, any paper trail to show that she has a degree. We've seen even my friend Anjiru Ndegwa, who is a lawyer, an advocate, has actually written a letter to the EACC, has written to the Commission for the Universities to actually confirm whether Wangui Ngrishi, who wants to run for Kirinyaga governor, actually finished Form 4 and he earned a degree. So that tells you that our system is full of crooks, people who forge documents for them to be able to gain public office. And that is the norm, even in public offices. We remember the story of the former MP of Nyatike, who is alleged that he used documents for his brother to actually also gain some employment in some institution. We have read about that particular MCA in Kericho County, who also bought a KCSE certificate in 2017. So to me, I think this madness, we need to tighten up the rope. We need to make sure that people who have integrity questions are not allowed to vie for public office. And those institutions, those agencies like IEBC, like the EACC, like DCI, should do a thorough job and ensure these people do not even appear on the ballot. If it were in America or any other developed democracies, Oscar Sudi would have resigned by yesterday, and we will be talking about having a by-election in Kapseret. But because Kenya has condoned impunity and such kind of shady deals and lowered the bar of leadership, we will not even hear about people condemning Oscar Sudi, but rather they will go ahead to say, Oscar Sudi lives a good life, he has achieved as a man, you know, he drives this car, he has this house, and therefore education is not a measurement of intelligence or maybe leadership. That is not the point. The point is that we have a man here who forged documents, which is a crime, which is very fraudulent for a leader to do, for a leader to do. So I think, Miriam, as a country, we need a conversation on integrity matters. I submit.
All right, and as we do that, also the institutions that are tasked with the verification process, there's a reason why this was put into law. And so Bernard Mulati, an IEBC returning officer, had previously testified that he cleared the MP in 2013 without knowing he had forged academic certificates. Why did they not do a background check? And he said he did not suspect anything was amiss until investigations were conducted in 2016. Sudi had attempted to stop his prosecution when he filed a suit at the High Court, arguing that he was not accorded a fair hearing by the EACC and the charges violated his privacy, dignity. But Lady Justice Hedwig Ongudi dismissed the application, ruling that the prosecution did not violate his rights and were justified to charge him based on the evidence collected, linking him to the forgeries. So, Sharon, will Oscar Sudi, a member of parliament for Kapseret, survive this with all this evidence that seems to point to the fact that he never went to high school and he never went to college? He just passed by.
Thank you very much, Miriam. And before I answer your question, let me answer to what Daniel has asked, how he went to, school. He did his KCSE in 2006, and then in 2005 he actually sat for diploma. Don't you think it's actually giving a different meaning of what bottom-up economic module is, where you actually start from bottom and then you go?
No, that is
as you
down. That is trickle down effect. That is trickle down.
No,
on
a light note,
it's part of the bottom up.
Yeah, he's a remnant.
Yeah,
actually been. Anyway, that aside, maybe to just
actually, Sharon, you might be right, because he went all the way from primary to college, and then now he actually represented both the models of bottom up and trickle down in one go.
Yeah.
The fact that you're even trying to make sense of this is just amazing.
No, Miriam, let me go back to answering your question. And as much as you don't actually need a degree to be an MP. But I think the most basic of education really matters, because you realize that school and education really shapes how you're able to think through and navigate through the dynamics of economics and all these issues that actually govern us, and especially considering that an MP is such a very critical role. A parliament, you realize it's if I can say, it's a mirror of any society. Everyone is looking up to these people who how they are able to articulate issues, how they undertake all these issues that we've been facing financially, economically, and all that. It's actually quite unfortunate that this case actually has taken, I think, over 5 years, and I think by the time the ruling is actually going to be made, he might have actually been out of his term might have actually come to an end. So how is this really going to serve cause, given that he's actually been in the parliament for more than 10 years and nothing that has actually been done? And I was actually checking, and I saw one of the MP now trying to point fingers to NEC, and they were saying that apparently NEC is now responsible for having given a spelling mistake, and it's quite ridiculous. And I think something really needs to be done. And if anything, Oscar Sudi should actually be brought to book for forgery and even perjury. And it's they say what goes around comes back around. Recently, and even in the past, you've seen him calling people conmen and calling people fake. I think at some point he actually said Gideon Moi is actually fake, and he actually went to he owns a fake degree that he got from his father's school. The other day you saw him insulting a whole ambassador, and to an extent that he actually he actually orchestrated towards burning down of his house. So this whole thing is we can't keep on talking about it, and yet there is actually evidence. I personally cannot question NEC. This is a very credible this is actually whatever that has been given. I cannot even question NEC, and I'm sure I think it's high time we just bring him to book, and if anything, should actually be charged for forgery of papers and even perjury for having signed an oath, even in where law is concerned, knowing very well that these are fake papers. So let's begin to roll, even from IEBC. If anything, they should actually ban him from this upcoming election. And I think yesterday I said if these were countries like Japan, where we have issues with competence and integrity issues, if anything, they're actually forced to resign. I don't know when we'll ever get there, but I mean, it's high time something really needs to be done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And according to the records, let me just correct something. Apparently, he went to Kim and sat for his examination there in September 2008. And that is what that fake diploma certificate there shows. So as much as we can talk about Sudi, and of course, I think a conversation we were having here yesterday, and Professor said it's not just Sudi, there are so many of these politicians and people holding very high positions, especially in government, who have forged paper. So this is a problem. But when it comes to politics and how they're supposed to be elected, there's a part where these documents are supposed to be verified, as we have seen, and IEBC on this regard failed on its part, and other institutions that are mandated for this. So as much as Sudi, the case is still continuing, but we do have a problem now that we see with the IEBC and the manner in which they take up some of this very important responsibility that has been bestowed to them. So is this an eye-opener, and should the IEBC take responsibility in this regard, Samuel Tawish?
Thank you so much, Miriam. Let me begin from where you left. We have had so many other eye-openers before, but we've not seen actually the institutions that are mandated to make sure that this doesn't happen really take charge. Oscar Sudi's case, Miriam, is more of a comic because I'm not quite surprised that we are where we are, or we are discussing about Oscar Sudi, because you've seen in the past, Oscar Sudi is one of those people in the front line fighting the fight against corruption. Oscar Sudi has been, of course, fighting people who have been talking about matters to do with education, and even including his own master, Deputy President William Ruto, that education is not consummate or should not dictate whether someone should get leadership position or not. So we are not quite surprised, because this is the kind of things they have been actually propagating. Miriam, the reason why Oscar Sudi and his cahoots have been fighting the fight against corruption is simply because maybe they even know how they got themselves to positions that they are now. Because for you to have managed to clear yourself and get all these documents really to contest for a parliamentary seat, it does mean that, Miriam, you must have really bribed your way. You must have bribed so many institutions, so many individuals in these institutions for you to get these relevant documents to actually allow you or permit you to contest for this seat, Miriam. Mm-hmm. But be that as it may, I mean, we are where we are today, and Oscar Sudi case, like you've said, should be yet another eye-opener. And maybe the relevant agencies now have to move in swiftly and see how we can curb this menace. Because again, other people, when they're looking into this example, and if nothing is done to Oscar Sudi, because what I believe, first of all, he should be stripped of his position as a member of parliament. Secondly, he should be prosecuted and charged for forgery. Because when we do that, if this person is going to be taken to court and eventually jailed, then we'll be serving as a good example. It will be a deterrent measure or step that will discourage other people really from engaging in this particular vice. And like Sean Wesonga said, there are so many Oscar Sudis out here, not only in the political scene, Miriam, even in other cadres. You have so many people with fake degrees, but they have managed to get their ways where they are today. So what is it then we can do? Because IEBC cannot come today and claim, for example, that they didn't know, because they're supposed to do due diligence. They're supposed to get a clearance certificate from all these relevant organizations, including the DCI, including the ESCC, and the other institutions. If I may ask you, Miriam, today, if you were to, if someone was to go and ask maybe where you went to school in primary or even high school or university, I mean, all those information can be gotten from the schools that you are in, Miriam. So it is not possible that Oscar Sudi wants us to believe that all the people, all the institutions that have come to testify against him at this particular moment are all mad, Miriam, that they are telling the country wrong information, that indeed Oscar Sudi is schooled in those schools, and they are coming out ready to dispute that fact. In fact, I can tell you for sure, Miriam, there's no institution, no university, no school that will disown a student who has gone through that institution because of for purposes of political expediency. Because by the end of the day, they'll be damaging their own reputation. Mm-hmm. They'll be actually doing a very negative public relation for their own institution. If you have schooled in that particular place or institution, and this institution comes out and disowns you. So I believe what Oscar Sudi is trying to do, basically trying to defend himself out of all this debacle. But by the end of the day, I listened to him yesterday, he's saying he should not be prosecuted at the court of public opinion, that he should be allowed to actually counter are the kind of accusations against him. Yes, there will be that time. He will be allowed to really counter this, but we want to see how this is going to end. Because all these institutions cannot be wrong, really, that Oscar Sudi has gotten all these documents out of forgery. So he should be stripped that position. Second, we want to see him being arrested, prosecuted, and tried, and eventually locked behind bars so that he can serve as the best example in this country. I submit, Miriam.
All right, thank you so much.
Miriam, sorry, the question of IEBC, I think there's something that really needs to be done, because if you look at what happened in Kiagu, for the MCA during the by-election, it's the same thing whereby they actually approved nominations, then they waited, after the whole verification process, that's when they had to reject him. And this has actually got challenged in the High Court, and, they had to do a rerun of the same. So I think IEBC really needs to they need to do something, especially to restore our confidence to us Kenyans that has been eroded over time. Because if we continue to do all these things, then we're actually setting up ourselves for chaos. Thank you.
Okay, and now there's an interview he did, I think a couple of years ago, I believe, with the Nairobian, where he gave his life history. And let me just read very quickly. He claims he worked for 800 Kenya shillings per day in 1996 with a matatu christened Carlos, owned by Barnaba Sawe. He was a matatu tout then. At the age of 18, he took to driving, saved up some money, and started farming to supplement his earnings and cultivate 7 acres of maize, he said. And in 2000, he married and moved into his own iron sheet house before buying a matatu Peugeot 504. It is then that he made his first trip to Nairobi to buy a TV set and a radio. Hakukuja kutafuta shule. That was in around 2000. So he got married then. So I don't know, maybe if they go back to this story, wataona. So in his National Assembly profile, Sudi is listed as having attended Olympic Primary School in 1997, and yet he came to Nairobi for the first time. There's so much things that are not consistent in his story. So anyway, that case is in court, and we'll wait and see how that will work out. And he is also said to have attended the Highway High School in between 2003 and 2006. I guess after he got married, I'm not sure. People do that a lot of times. There are those examination centers you can register as an adult or go to school like Sudi said he did at Highway. So maybe he did that. But the case is in court, so we'll just leave that there. But just before I leave this topic, Daniel Wesonga, Chapter 6 of the Kenyan Constitution, is it just something that we thought we could just put in our constitution? And why do you think it's not taken seriously, even with the institutions that are mandated to implement some of these requirements by that chapter of leadership and integrity? Like the IEBC we see now has failed in its part, and I'm sure many other examples of people who are getting away with forgeries.
Yes, thank you, Miriam. And that boils down to the rot and the impunity that has penetrated into the judiciary. I won't be surprised if Oscar Sudi will walk away with such kind of impunity, because our judges are corrupt. The judiciary is rotten, and all they do is actually just to compete with the executive. No other thing. They never act in the interest of the common man. They never maybe make rulings that will deter such kind of dubious actions coming from our leaders. So to me, I think the road starts from the judiciary, which will be implementing these laws and actually cementing everything to make sure that Chapter 6 of our Constitution is actually adhered to. What do you expect, Miriam, from a judiciary where a judge is arrested with almost $7,000 in his chambers? And that is very suspicious, going by the fact that the grapevine has it that judges are exclusively bribed through dollars in denominations. So to me, I think we have a very, very big problem. And the big problem is the judiciary is corrupt. Judges are bribed left, right, and center. And also we have other agencies like IEBC, which are a bit lackluster in their way of in the way they actually carry out these processes. Tarwish has talked about verification of these documents before the IEBC. The same thing with Sharon Gitonga. She has talked about the kind of ineptitude that IEBC manifests whenever it is conducting such kind of vetting for these candidates. So I believe we need an overhaul, starting from the judiciary and to the bodies like IEBC, which are responsible for upholding this chapter of the Constitution for public officers, people who are seeking to be elected into public offices. It is not upon the president, or it is not upon the voter to go into court and be able to maybe prosecute a case in the court where perhaps these leaders will be held accountable. It is upon the courts, upon realization from the various agencies like DCI or EACC, to make sure that they give a ruling that will serve as a warning shot to anyone who is involved in forgery, to anyone who thinks maybe they can skip some ladders of intellectual nourishment and be able to forge documents to get plum jobs and also seek public office. That is the only way. Not until we go the way like Sharon Gitonga has talked about Japan or maybe China, where corrupt individuals are actually hung. We shall not see anything good coming from our leaders. We need to be serious about Chapter 6 of our Constitution and block all leaders who are involved in forgery, who are involved in corruption. Those ones even who are facing murder charges in court, they should not be allowed to run for office.
Well.
I submit.
Thank you. Now, the MP took to social media yesterday where he wrote, "I have seen busybodies prosecuting my case in the court of public opinion. Why can't they wait for the court process to take its course?" He also said he had more than 50 witnesses on his side. The prosecution has so far presented 10 witnesses, with the remaining 3 scheduled to testify when the hearing resumes on November 17th. So anasema he has 50 witnesses, must be his former classmates.
Yes, indeed, Miriam. If Oscar Sudi is going to bring the 50 or whichever kind of number of witnesses that are going to come and testify in his defense, we want to see maybe he's going to come up with the classmates. Is he going to come with some teachers? Is he going to come with the representatives of those institutions? Those are the people who really want to come and testify on his behalf. Not the likes of Kipchumba Murkomen as his lawyer testifying on his behalf, because we know which side he's going to really lean on. So let us wait and see. We can maybe just give a benefit of doubt. But just like I've said, Miriam, all these institutions and individuals who have already testified cannot be all mad.
Okay, so probably he'll bring everybody, including the head boy of that year in that school. So, okay, let's not continue prosecuting him in public. Let's wait for the due course of the law to take its effect. All right, so I want us to look at another story here. Very quickly, Deputy President William Ruto's allies have called for the resignation of Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i and his ICT counterpart Joe Mucheru over claims that they are partisan and have pledged to rally behind ODM leader Raila Odinga, who is eyeing the presidency next year's general election. Speaking at Ruto's current residence yesterday, the leader said it was wrong to have partisan CSAs who control the police force in ICT, where the Communication Authority of Kenya is domiciled. They noted that the authority works with the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission in the coordination of elections. We cannot allow the people who are ministers in such critical ministries at such a time like this to be partisan, said Kiharu Member of Parliament Ndindi Nyoro. Madeira Member of Parliament Rigathi Gachagua said, and if the president for whatever reason requires these 2 ministers to be in his government, then he can move them to other dockets that have nothing to do with the elections. The MPs were reacting to a meeting on 2020 elections preparedness that was convened by the IEBC on Monday. It was attended by Dr. Matiang'i, Mr. Mucheru, and Chief Justice Martha Koome, among others. And Mucheru and Matiang'i's time has come to an end. It should never happen that people who are supposed to serve the public take sides. We cannot trust them. We don't believe in them because they have already branded themselves as ODM, said Kandara Member of Parliament Alice Wahome. And Gachagua added, the people of Kenya cannot be comfortable and cannot accept an election that is being managed by people who were clearly partisan. This sounds like what Raila was saying a couple of years ago, but okay, so do they have a point, Sharon Gitonga?
Thank you very much, Miriam. If you can allow me to play the devil's advocate here, because I think this is quite paranoid, and it's clear that the political stakes are very high. And you know what they say, when the stakes are high, every move counts. So I think UDA, from where I see it, it's like they have sensed defeat, and if anything, they should actually, they should just, change their strategies and dynamics, and not pointing out fingers to this. Yes, because I believe everyone has, a freedom of expression, and it is in their democratic right. Remember, at the end of the day, if actually saw what Matiang'i and Musheru, they didn't, campaign outrightly. They just declared, their preferred candidate who is meant to vote. I remember even the president himself, he has a preferred candidate, and anytime he might actually decide to, publicly declare him or actually not. This is just, for me, I'm sensing a paranoid, but, for UDA, I think they keep on saying how they have enough numbers, and they keep on alluding confidence. So if this be the case, then I don't think they should actually be to an extent of, any worry, because at the end of the day, everyone has, freedom of right and freedom to express. And at the end of the day, these people are going to vote. So long as whatever their actions are not actually going to contravene elections or actually jeopardize elections in one way or another, I think for me, this is speaking from a point of having considered defeat, and it's high time they should just, change their dynamics. But when all is said and done, we will actually watch and assess them, assess the CSs as they move. But from where I speak, I didn't hear any of the CSs actually campaigning for these two people, for any president. They just gave their own preferred candidate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And of course, I think it's a couple of days ago where one of the CSs, that will be Eugene Wamalwa, said, as CSs, we are the president's workers. We are appointed to assist the president. If you have been appointed to assist the president, can you resist the president? If he says the handshake between him and Raila will bring peace in the country, then as a CS, we will join him and support whatever the cause that their boss wants them to support. So they're trying to explain where they're coming in. Awesonga, do they have a point in regards to raising these issues? And I think they're pouring some water in that meeting that was held with these very important ministries, and that is because they have to work together in preparedness for the election next year. We need to know our security is okay, and who is heading that security. That will be Matiang'i. We need to know that 3G network that we need is across board, and because we know that part of our election, a huge part of it is electronic, so it will only make sense that the ICTCS is part of that meeting. There are cases that will be had and petitions that will be filed in court. So the judiciary, it was sensible that it was part of that meeting. So why would they have a problem with that?
I think, Miriam, the problem with the Kenyan political class is the hypocrisy and double-speak that they do have. And it's actually flabbergasting when you see the likes of Rigathi Gachagua and Ndindi Nyoro talking about these CS resigning or maybe being moved to other ministries. When in 2017, in 2016, Matiang'i was still the ICT CS, they did not complain about the same. To me, I think the most critical question they should ask is that are these ministers actually mandated? Are they performing these duties under their mandate? And of course, the answer is yes, because those are the roles they should play, because the ICT docket and the interior docket are actually very critical to any election. Remember, IEBC has to work with the interior docket in matters security, in matters even guarding their own officials throughout the country during this particular period, in matters safeguarding the campaigns of the politicians who are moving around the country. Also, the ICT docket, remember the IEBC is expected to do the 4G transmission of the results, the electronic transmission of results. So therefore, the ICT ministry has to make sure that They put all the structures in place through the Communication Authority of Kenya and any other platforms that are under their mandate. So to me, I think it is just a matter of feeling a bit hypocritical on the side of these leaders. Because also when you look at history, Rigathi Gachagua was a DO in Molo at the time when KANU government was actually instigating a very vicious purge on the people of Mount Kenya who are living in Molo at that time. And one thing about the Moi regime, it never knew how to separate politics from civil duties. So as a DO, he was actually a stooge and a puppet of the regime. And therefore, he should be the last person actually to talk about maybe Matiang'i or Musheru or even Mutahi Kagwe being agents of ODM and the former prime minister. So to me, I think it is what politics is. And I remember when Obama was in Kenya the last time, he talked about something very profound, that in a democracy, it is very much often to find one side complaining. If you want to run a democracy, you will not run a country where we do not have maybe demonstrations, complaints and all that, because while you serve one side of the democracy, the other side will complain. And tomorrow when you come and sort the other side, you will find that the other side that was celebrating actually is now the side that is complaining about something not being done on their end. So at the end of it all, you have to keep a very dynamic balance. And what I will call these ministers to do is actually to ignore it. Because Miriam, you have also mentioned that perhaps this sounds like something that Raila Odinga and his team were saying prior to the 2017 elections. Now you've seen this has shifted. It is now the other side of the political divide, William Ruto and his men. And you understand what William Ruto will tell the NASA team in 2017 regarding the same issues. So it is a democracy, and in a democracy, you do not satisfy everyone. And more so, these are ministers who are the top echelon of the president's team of men who are assisting the president with day-to-day running of government. And there's a West African proverb which says that the higher the monkey climbs, the more bottom it shows. So they are more potent to being perceived in bad light, no matter how good they try to act. I submit.
All right, thank you. Tawish, conclude the topic for us.
Thank you so much, Miriam. I want to agree with all the statements made by my colleague panelists, that I will add a few points. Miriam, I've been following up and listening to the speeches and pronouncements that have been made by these CSS who are being accused by the Hustler team that they are actually maybe in favor of Raila Amolo Odinga in as far as 2022 presidential election is concerned. Miriam, fact number one, we have to contend with the fact that these are the employees of the government. They work for the government and the people of Kenya. And just like they have always come out to pronounce themselves to this effect, that they will always remain loyal and listen to what the president asks them to do. And what the UDA team is really struggling to understand is how these people have remained consistent and loyal to President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Jubilee administration. Because in 2017, you understand, during the riots, the sit-ins around the IEBC and the demonstrations that we used to have in this nation, I mean, the security apparatus used to unleash tear gas to disrupt these individuals, of course led by Raila Amolo Odinga and the opposition bigwigs in the country. So now William Ruto and his team cannot quite understand. They cannot come to terms that the same Matiang'i is sitting on the same table with Raila Amolo Odinga and discussing the future of this country. I think, just like Sharon has said, these are people who have sensed a defeat, and they're just but looking for scapegoats. They're looking for excuses really to justify their defeat. William Ruto is setting a stage really to reject the 2022 general election, unless we are not seeing in that perspective, Miriam, because this is how it begins. This is how it all begins. Ruto is preparing his supporters that to try to begin thinking that they have been rigged. That is why he's now beginning to actually accuse these CSS. And if you listen carefully yesterday when they were in Karen, William Ruto himself did not come out and maybe openly accuse these CSS, because he knows too well in the run-up to 2017 general election, like Sean Wesonga has said, William Ruto is one of those individuals who came out and asked the opposition really to be mute when it came to the question of accountability on the part of the civil servants who were actually perceived to be engaging in campaigns in favor of the Jubilee administration or the re-election of the Jubilee administration. You remember when William Ruto used to remind the opposition that let the civil servants be. That was the one, that let Matiang'i be. In fact, I remember when he used to tell people, let Matiang'i be. Matiang'i is an ordinary person who is just a civil servant executing his job, and he has nothing to do with politics. If you want to compete, come and compete with us politicians. And I think he now has to swallow his own words. He has to compete with Raila Amolo Odinga and avoid looking for scapegoats and excuses to a point of trying to accuse the CSS that they are actually leaning or in favor of Raila Amolo Odinga. I'm sure what is infuriating these leaders more so, Miriam, is the mere fact that the mere fact that there was a task force that was formed just the other day, which brings on board, of course, the ICT, the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Interior, the Finance Docket, the political register of political parties, IEBC, and other institutions in this country, just to make sure that we have a free, fair, credible, and a peaceful election come 2022. I do not understand how that amounts to rigging an election in favor of Raila Amolo Odinga. I don't know if William Ruto and his team do not want such kind of a task force to be put in place, because it is going to be a watchdog. It's going to be listening and seeing how these people are going to carry out their activities. So they want this country just to be in disarray, because they know they will thrive in that disarray. But we are very happy that Matiang'i, being the chief cabinet secretary, he has taken up the task, and they have formed this task force. They will be able to look into all these affairs and make sure that Kenya has a free, fair, credible, and a safe and a peaceful election come 2022. Any other thing, Miriam, is just basically side issues and trying to detract Kenyans from the real game. So they have to go back and re-strategize again and see how they are going to battle it out with Raila Odinga or others who will be presenting themselves on the ballot.
All right.
I submit.
Thank you so much. And other stories that we did not have time to look at this morning. The main headline of the Star newspaper, Musalia buys Paul Kaz, Sakaja takes lead role. And the story is on page. So I'll just read quickly. We will not talk about it. Maybe we will recap later. ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi has ordered brand new campaign Land Rover set up a presidential secretariat and named Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja as his chief campaigner for the presidency next year. In yet another sign of his determination to energize his bid, the former vice president has also hired top consultants to help set up a 24-hour call center in a secret and secure location. Okay, see, he has invested. That's good. And also, page 6 of this Star newspaper, Jubilee plans NDC to ratify 2022 coalition with Raila. Ruling party is set to hold a national delegates conference next month, and then Ruto will be the 5th president, declares new Kaj. In quotes there, they've put it, the Star Waiguru. And a state to appeal Huduma number ruling. That is according to ICT Cabinet Secretary Joe Musheru. So that is just some of the things that we don't have time to look at this morning, but they are on our papers. So we will take a short break, and then we'll come back on the top of the hour, and we will look at this new initiative by the government in improving the infrastructure in our public education systems. As we saw yesterday, a good number of classrooms are set to be built at a cost of about 800,000 per classroom. So we'll see what this will mean to the public education sector, and even as Kenya, the transition in the new curriculum, because there was a problem with that. In some cases, there were no enough classrooms and things like that. So we'll see how the government is working to address this matter, and also to improving just generally our public education sector. Thank you so much. Thank you, Samuel Tawish. Thank you, Sharon Gitonga and Daniel Wesonga. So don't go too far. We'll be back here on the top of the hour. My name is Miriam Ogutu. Good morning.